George, welcome. How are you doing today?
Not too bad, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Very well. Thanks for joining me today. I'm having troubles getting my words out for some reason. I think it's been a long day battling a lot of
Has been,
developers
yeah.
to have things implemented. But thank you so much for joining me. As I like to do with a lot of SEOs, I like to ask SEOs how they got started in SEO. So with that said, how did you become an SEO?
Right, so that's a fairly long story, but I'll
Go for
bring
it.
it, I'll do a long story short. So I started building websites in HTML at the age of 11, back when Dreamweaver never existed, and majority of software didn't exist. So you're forced to use Notepad and pure HTML to build websites.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started building websites at the age of 11. Started to really get into technology and websites in general from a very young age. At the age of 13, my curiosity got the better of me. So I ended up buying secondhand old enterprise servers and trying to set up a website that runs from my own house. So I had an old server in my garage and then learned how to deal with routers and networking and how to configure everything, domains, at DNS levels, etc. Um, to get a website to run on the internet from our own garage. That was successful. And then fast forward a couple more years when I was about 15 or 16 years old, um, build a Flash game website. Before social media ever existed, majority of people used to spend their time on online playing games like miniclips.com and those type of websites.
Hmm.
So I built my very own Flash game website with a few hundred games on there. And I badly wanted to rank for the keyword hot games or Flash games. Um, I noticed a lot of the websites that I look up to, they all rank, page one, position one, two, or three, and I really wanted to get up there. So I started to analyze from a young age, what is it about the websites that makes Google rank them? And back then, it was all about how many times can you repeat your keyword on a page, put it in big writing, get as many dodgy links as you can, those type of techniques. And I was successful at the age of 15, 16. I think, managed to get number one for hot games. And for Flash games, I think I was number two or three, something like that. But at the time, I didn't know what I was doing was actually SEO. I had no idea. But anyway, fast forward a few more years, I continued to self-develop myself in just web technologies up until I was about 20, 21 years old when I actually discovered there's a job called SEO. And everything I've been doing for the last few years, you can actually get paid to do it. So yeah, that's kind of long story short how I got into SEO.
I think a lot of people get into SEO almost by accident, literally just doing it and then later on finding out that it's a thing, it's an actual career. People
Yeah,
it's a profession. I think maybe SEO's coming up now. They probably study it at university or maybe as a part of a course or something. But in the very early days, it was just literally getting your hands dirty, building sites, and then finding out an area that you're very interested in, which from SEOs, it tends to be SEO. For a lot of SEOs,
yeah,
they tend to focus on SEO rather than PPC or other channels. SEO is the one that really grabs people, I
yeah.
find. Um, would you say you're more on page, off page content, technical, or all rounder?
Primarily technical. I do all round, but my main strength will be technical SEO.
Technical. And you mentioned just earlier that you've before we started recording that you've worked both client side and agency side. I want to talk a bit more about
Yeah,
both. How was your
yeah.
experience agency side, firstly?
I love working agency side. I recommend it, especially to anyone who wants to get into SEO. Try and start your career at agency because you're going to learn a lot about everything. So, for example, in-house, you might focus on if you get a job at a website that is in the medical industry, you're only going to learn SEO in that specific industry.
Hmm.
And whatever challenges that website has, that's what you're going to learn. Whereas agency, you're going to be working on a variety of websites. So you get to see see and learn from different industries, different types of websites. So yeah, I've had an amazing experience agency side.
What about client side? How's that going, client side?
I actually prefer it. I do prefer client side, but I have to stress that if you're getting into SEO, I will highly recommend agency side. But once you're experienced in SEO, yes, I love my job personally. I love my job. I love the company I work for. So yeah, things couldn't be any better right now.
Yeah, I find that SEOs who've worked both client side and agency side tend to prefer client side. I think there is something about being client side where you get to really be a marketer. I know it usually tends to just be focused on the one brand that you're working on, but I find that you really delve into the brand and the business and the industry as well.
Yeah.
Business's industry. But I actually agree. Yeah. I personally find client side more rewarding from an SEO point of view. But I actually agree in that if one is starting out as an SEO, agency is probably the better route, I think, for all the reasons you mentioned.
I was going to say, plus agency, they tend to have the time to sit down and educate you and train you up to, progress through your career.
Yeah.
Whereas client side, they may not always have that level of resource internally to provide that amount of time that you would need.
My one issue about agency side, and it's a big issue, but I'll just summarize it as one issue in that the more you're at an agency and the higher up one goes at an agency, the more your role becomes, the more you become a salesperson. Agency is pretty much all about the sales. And that's why I like to differentiate agency as selling SEO, client side as doing SEO. The higher up one goes in the business. But, both options are good options.
Yeah, no, I strongly agree with that because on my previous role at an agency side, it's been many times where my role started to change from being hands-on SEO to now being more pitches, sales, and managing teams, and no longer really actually doing SEO. And for years, I pushed back on that and prefer to remain in my current role where I'm very hands-on because that's what I enjoy. I enjoy being a hands-on SEO.
Yeah, and I find that you get to remain in SEO and stay on top of the industry, abreast of the industry, because otherwise, if you're hands off, you might not even know how to do SEO anymore after a while.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
So with technical SEO, you mentioned you're more of a technical SEO person. How is it working with developers? And I laugh because I mention developers a lot. I love developers. I really do. I find that we think in a very similar way, but it's difficult to get through to developers as compared to copywriters, for example. I find that as an industry, we're a lot more closer with copywriters than developers. But what's your experience with developers?
So my experience hearing other SEOs, everyone always complains about developers because, they tend to ignore SEOs. They don't do what you want. And they're just a headache to work with. But from my own personal experience, if you can speak the same language as a developer and the way you approach a developer, it can really change how they respond to you. I'll give you an example. I've seen SEOs in the past where, let's say, they do a core web vital audit. They'll go on Chrome, do a Lighthouse test, copy the result, and then paste it to developers. A developer's not stupid. They use Lighthouse themselves. They're fully aware that this is a copy and paste. So automatically, that developer isn't going to trust you to listen to you. But if you learn how developers work and you understand how they flow through Jira and you start to provide recommendations that are structured in a way that they can copy it and put it directly into Jira and it's one task at a time, then you'll find that they respond to you a lot better.
Yeah, something I've noticed as well is that they tend to be a lot more receptive when when you paint the picture, um,
Yeah,
almost like a step by step, because they then see the full picture. With copywriters, you can speak with them and you can paint the picture with words, but developers, they need data.
yeah,
They need to see, but once they have data, it's very easy for them to see the big picture. And actually, I find that they sometimes have better solutions than what you may have presented to them once they see
yeah.
the big picture with data.
Of course, yeah. And another bit of experience I've had working with Topshop and Labrooks and other large clients in the past is if you do provide solutions to them, they're again more open to jumping on a meeting, discussing your solution. They will come up with their own solutions, and you both discuss it and come up with what is the optimum solution for whatever you're trying to do. Um, so that works really well with developers. But going back to what I said earlier, if you're going to approach developers with, can you please change X, Y, Z? And first of all, you're not giving them a good enough reason why you're changing it. You're providing the recommendation in a way that they can't just put into Jira, which means you're creating extra work for them because they have to rewrite whatever you send them, put it into Jira, and then actually do it. So the more you can learn developers and how they work, the easier it is to actually work with them.
That's so true, because I find when I think back to when I work with copywriters, very early on in the early day, I think copywriters as a whole are more familiar with SEO these days, right? So you explain something to them, they
Yeah,
get it just like that. But in the early days, it wasn't really like that. You had pushback as well, similar to how we have pushback
yeah,
with developers these days. And I realized that it seemed as though we had pushback because we were presenting them with more work, and almost work that was in contrast to their work. So imagine being
yeah.
a developer, right? And you've just built a site, launched it, and then this person comes to you and says, "Can we change X, Y, and Z on the site?" You would take it personally, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the issue, SEOs. I think that's the issue that we face. A lot of the times, though.
Yeah, is that sorry, go on,
No,
finish.
no, no.
Finish.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you hit the nail on the head there. And one more example. Sorry, whilst we're talking of examples, because I appreciate whoever's listening to this video, it might be beneficial for them. When you speak to developers, try and be technically correct as much as possible. I've seen examples in the past where an SEO may go up to a developer and say, "Can you implement 6 months caching?" And the developer will turn around and be like, "What caching? Server level caching, CDN caching, browser caching?" And then the SEO is like, "I don't know." So before you make a recommendation, make sure you understand the recommendation so you can do a bit of back and forth with the developer.
Okay, so I think these recommendations that we provide are great, right? But it leads to a fundamental issue in that an issue has to have occurred before we can provide a solution or recommendation. How can we engage developers before an issue arises?
So I guess I can talk about this because the company I'm going to talk about has gone into administration. So technically, I'm probably allowed to say whatever I want because they're no longer with us. But yeah, we've had these issues with Topshop all the time where developers would keep releasing something that would negatively impact SEO. And with Topshop, they had hundreds, if not thousands, of developers. So it was very difficult to stay on top of them releasing something that may damage SEO. The best thing what we've done is do training courses with developers and training courses, but trying to be engaging with them and talk their language in the training course. Because you have to be very careful not to tell them how to do their job. That's something that won't work very well with developers. You have to tread carefully. But it's about educating developers how Google works, how Google crawls website, and how a small change that you might make a significant impact on organic performance. And that tends to work, but I must say it's not perfect for sure.
There is a lot of awareness of SEO that needs to be carried out within businesses from the top down, operationally working with the various departments, and also from a business leadership point of view. we still have business leaders these days who look at their digital performance. Let's say a CMO, they'll look at their digital performance and say, I need results ASAP. I'm going to use PPC, and PPC is working for me. I don't need SEO. I'm going to stick with SEO. I'm going to stick with PPC rather. What would you say to someone who thinks that way and only realizes they need SEO after they have an issue with their organic search results?
So first thing you do, depending on the scenario, if you can ask them what is your average conversion rate, start with that, and then you can build a very simple forecast model based on approximate traffic that the biggest competitor has. So then you can kind of give them a number. You're missing out on X amount of millions of pounds per year, or depending on how big the website is. Or if you do not know the average order value and the conversion rate and stuff like that, you can still go on SEMrush and have a look at what is the estimated organic traffic, exclude branded, of course, and then do the same with the biggest competitors and try and build a small business case showing them how far behind they are and how much more organic traffic or revenue they could potentially drive.
Okay, so
tends to get them thinking a bit.
Thinking about it, yeah. Now, I find that some business leaders, they invest in SEO or they commit to it after a lot of business cases, and it usually takes more than one to get them convinced, right?
Yeah.
But they eventually invest in SEO, and then they believe 3 to 6 months time they should see results. Now, of course, we know that is not the case, but there are some business leaders who still believe SEO takes 6 months to show results. What would you say to those business leaders that SEO takes longer?
Well, it depends on the website, because from personal experience, I've seen SEO, you can see results within 48 hours, and I've seen other times where it can take 2 years. It really does depend on the website and how many problems are we dealing with. I'll give you a very brief example. Topshop at a few years ago, let's say they had 7,000 products, which means 7,000 PDPs, but they will have 13 million pages. So clearly we have a significant issue here, because how can you have 7,000 products and 13 million pages indexed? A website like that will take over a year to fix, because by the time, first of all, you fix all those problems, Google recrawls all those 13 million pages, starts to de-index them and get your website ranking. It's going to take some time. But if you're dealing with a very clean website, yes, you can see results fairly quickly. But again, it depends on what is it you're doing. But usually in SEO, because development resource is very tight, it's going to take 6 months plus, because you can't implement everything you want overnight. It's going to take time working with developers, working with different content teams, etc. It's going to be a long process, but it'll be rewarding in the end.
Yeah, I find that when it comes to developers' resources, the business requirements tends to override or overrule SEO requirements. So almost if you had it as a list of things, let's say 20 things that the business wants to achieve, SEO is usually way down the list. And I find that some businesses these days, they tend to separate SEO from just the business operational things that they want devs to work on. Do you think that is the key to having SEO recommendations implemented, dev recommendations? Or dev technical recommendations, I should say.
So what was the question?
Do you think having SEO recommendations or SEO tickets split out between the normal business tickets from a dev point of view is the key to having SEO recommendations implemented by developers?
Well, my experience, we've always had epics in Jira specifically for SEO. Yes, we don't mix with other departments within a business. And then if you go to a much bigger company, you start to find you got SEO project managers as opposed to just a head of SEO. You've got a project manager who then works with a specific set of developers who they just do SEO implementations. But I do agree with you that in terms of large businesses, usually SEO will be at the bottom of the list in terms of priority of things developers should be working on. And this is going to sound controversial, but I can understand, sometimes I can understand why they say that and why they deprioritize SEO. And then you find other companies where to them SEO is the number one priority. So I've worked with both sides of different company types where some value SEO more than others.
Yeah, I find that I'm seeing a rise in SEO project managers as a role these days.
Yeah.
It's becoming, I think businesses have started to see the importance of SEO, and there are literally roles that are project managers just for SEO. That's how important SEO is to some businesses. Now, going back to the way business leaders think about SEO, they may not understand the operations of SEO. Paints the reality of, let's say, a business invests in SEO for the very first time, that they're actively taking control of their SEO. What can they expect from SEO from, let's say, the very next day after investing in SEO?
The very next day, not much. Maybe a bunch of emails from SEOs sending them recommendations. But in terms of results, and if there are any business leaders listen to this, you're not going to get results in 24 hours. SEO, it is a long-term commitment. But one thing I will mention, and this will certainly be controversial, but it's for the greater good. As an industry, SEO as an industry, there's a lot of bad reputation within SEO, and that's where you find a lot of business leaders don't believe in SEO, and developers deprioritize SEO right to the bottom, because you tend to have two types. You have SEOs who are not that great, and you have SEOs who are very great. And if you happen to hire someone who might not be the best person for your company, yes, you're going to, in a year's time, you're going to start to look down on SEO and think it doesn't work. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just, it depends who you hire and who you don't hire. That's from my experience. I mean, and a way you can validate that, how can you hire, let's say, a technical SEO director, and one company will pay them 30,000, another company will pay someone 100 grand. That vast difference tells me the experience level of this, both the same job title, there's something in between that, people are missing out. So if you go cheap on your SEO agency or your staff, you're going to probably have a problem.
What I've also spotted with business leaders is that they invest in SEO. They have an idea of what to expect just from experience, but they find it daunting as a marketing channel. They tend to stay away from it. And because of that, the entire business tends to shy away from it and almost get away with pushing back on SEO. What can business leaders do to influence their businesses to concern more about SEO? Well, I don't think concern is the right word, but to care more about SEO.
Well, it depends on the business type. I mean, if you're in e-commerce, SEO should be up there with one of your number one priorities. If you look at companies like Pretty Little Thing and other digital-first companies, they grew to where they are, and a lot of that's been driven by SEO. And if you're a business and you don't take SEO seriously, all your competitors are. And if your competitors start to overtake you, and then you decide to jump into SEO, sometimes it might be too late. And I've worked with companies before where it was too late. The competitors have gone so far ahead that now this company is struggling financially. So even though they may want to focus on SEO now, financially they can't support the resources that SEO might need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that myself as well. It's a shame, but I think a lot of businesses tend to only realize they need to utilize the channel only after they've been negatively impacted because of not using the channel. And that is pretty much how a lot of businesses are when it comes to algorithms. An algorithm happens, they get hit by the algorithm, and then SEO all of a sudden becomes a focus.
Pull up an agency.
Yeah. What can a business do to prevent their SEO from worsening?
Well, listen, if you're a business, and make sure you're a sizable business, we're not talking about a company that makes £10,000 a year, a medium to large size business. If at least 5 or 10% of your revenue comes from SEO, you should be taking SEO a little bit more serious, and you should at least have someone, whether it's an agency or someone in-house, to be at least maintaining that SEO for you. If it's not growing it, at least maintaining it. You can't be driving 5-10% of your revenue through SEO and have nobody looking at it, because before you know it, something will go wrong, and usually it always does. And then that's when they start bringing up agencies and hiring SEOs, and they start to prioritize it when it's too late, when the damage has already been done.
Yeah. It's usually after SEO regresses, and then they realize, oh, we need to make more. But firstly, you need to get back to parity before you can improve things.
Yeah.
And prevention is usually better with SEO. And again, it's that spreading awareness of SEO within a business that really benefits it.
Yeah.
With the helpful content updates, have you seen a big impact just generally?
No. For most algorithms, I don't know why, but for most of the clients I've worked with, or now that I'm in-house, I don't tend to see much of an impact from algorithms over the last few years. But I have seen, of course, in other industries and other websites out there, some have been hit really bad, some of them have been positively impacted. But I'm fortunate enough to not worry too much about the algorithm updates.
Do you think the industry generally pays too much attention to algorithm updates?
I think so. and the reason being is, if you go back to Google's original roots, and Google's all about providing their users with the best user experience and the search results to make sure that the best user experience. If that is your number one priority when you're making SEO, and don't just make SEO changes because it improves SEO, make sure it actually improves the user experience. So if you're going to write content, don't write content for Googlebot, make sure it actually helps the user in some way. And if you go by that strategy, you shouldn't worry too much about Google algorithms, because they usually won't impact you.
Yeah, some would say we're...
But if you start being shady, it's different.
Some would say us SEOs are Google's PR department. And in a lot of ways, it's true.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite algorithm release or update? One that's made you say, "Oh, that was a really good one."
Probably the EAT and YMYO, because it's not perfect. They still got a lot of work to improve it, because you can still manipulate it quite easily. But however, the idea of it, I think, is great, to ensure that people who are Googling financial advice are not being misled or given completely wrong financial advice. Or same with the medical industry. If you are searching for a medical condition, you don't want your average person who's creating an affiliate website or whatever it might be, who knows nothing about medical, writing medical content just so they can get traffic or money, but then they're actually advising you wrong. So I think that's a very good step in the right direction from Google's point of view. So yeah, it's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, those are good ones. For me, I got to take it back to Panda Penguin.
Penguin originals.
Yeah. Compared to the
big ones.
Yeah, compared to the algorithms these days, these algorithms are just lightweight compared to Panda Penguin.
Yeah.
They were perfect.
They shaped the search results.
Yeah. Game changers, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you know much about TikTok search? The reason I ask this is because I've been seeing TikTok is becoming more and more of a search engine. They're promoting people to search for things. And I've seen more than one article now saying that Gen Z and Gen Alpha tends to use TikTok as their platform for search rather than Google search. What's your take on TikTok potentially competing with Google?
I hope my niece doesn't watch this. So I don't use TikTok. I don't know that much about TikTok. In terms of competing directly against Google, right now, no. Could it happen in the future? Yeah, why not? I mean, it's so hard to predict the future, so you have to kind of be careful what you say. For example, once upon a time, we all used to send text messages to our friends, and then no one could have predicted something like WhatsApp came along.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, everyone was on Instagram. No one could have predicted someone's going to appear out of nowhere and take a massive market share, which is TikTok. So yeah, it's so hard to predict the future that I don't know. But what I do know is if you're young and let's say you want to learn some tips about SEO, yes, you can go on TikTok, search, SEO tips, and I'm sure you're going to find 30-second videos or 60-second videos. But if you want an in-depth tutorial, you probably have to move on to Google. Now, could that change in the future? Sure, it can definitely change. So, hard to say.
Yeah, I think there is something in the next couple of years. I think things will shape out a bit more. Everything's up in the air right now, but I do think TikTok they have a gap in that video is now the core type of content. And TikTok focusing only on Google, only on video, and consumers now expecting videos or wanting videos as their search results. That might be the gap that TikTok requires to compete. But I think the main competition wouldn't necessarily be with Google; it would be with YouTube.
TikTok or YouTube, yes, but one thing I was doing the other day, because I'm always interested, do people on a global level tend to slowly not use Google as much? So I was trying to think of keywords that isn't a product, isn't a service, something that you could Google 10 years ago and you could Google today, and it isn't influenced by something. And I started checking Google Trends on keywords like how to, but that's it, nothing after that. And yeah, Google still seems to be, if anything, climbing up and growing as opposed to dropping off. But of course, that's based on that 2 keywords. I'd love to see Google's actual data to see how they're doing, how much of an impact has Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and any other platform that comes in the future have taken on Google. Of course, they've taken a lot, but how much?
Yeah, I still think their biggest competitor is Amazon. No, in fact, it's Google is Amazon's biggest competitor. I should say it that way. Because Amazon, Google, they dominate, but Amazon really dominates.
Yeah. I mean, they're competitors in multiple industries, even the server industry when it comes to web hosting. You've got AWS versus Google Cloud. They're always going to be competitors.
Do you think search is easier or harder than it was, let's say, 5-7 years ago?
I'll say a little bit harder. Yeah, I'll say a little bit harder only because now you need to change the strategy based on what industry you're working on. You can't apply the same strategy in one industry than you would on another industry. You have to tailor your SEO approach to depend on the industry you're working on. However, with that being said, SEO in general, in my personal opinion, hasn't changed that much. And it goes back to what I said earlier. If you stick to making sure user experience is your number one priority, you don't need to worry too much. I mean, it's been the same 5 years ago, and it was the same almost 10 years ago. User experience has always been number one priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Google's mission, isn't it? Like to serve users as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And if websites are aligned with that, they perform well. If they're not, they tend to get hit by algorithms.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Do you have a favorite, let's say, a favorite service or tool from an SEO point of view that no longer exists? Whilst you're thinking, I'll give you one that comes to mind.
I've got one because we might say the same. Keywords in Google Analytics. Because that's what everyone would say. I mean, that's the number one tool that SEOs had and was taken away from us, is being
Yeah.
able to directly see how much traffic and revenue we're driving from at a keyword level.
Those were the good old days, right? It was just, I think
Yeah.
those were the purest, if you like, age of SEO. SEO is still very new, still growing, but those days where you can literally see keywords and take it all the way to revenue were, brilliant days.
Yeah, and it helps if you're going to present in front of senior management, because you can say, right, we've increased this specific keyword to X amount and it drove X amount of revenue. Whereas now you can't do that.
Yeah, it's more complex now. I think it's more complex, but in a good way overall.
Yeah, agree.
With SEOs coming into the industry these days, what would you say are things they should stay away from? Almost as, if you like, bad advice, because it's most of it is all subjective, right? And what might work for one might not work for another. Different industries, different brands, and these are things that all impact one's SEO. And I like to look at SEO as almost an industry-led approach, as an SEO industry, and then SEO that's specific to a client. So John Lewis SEO, Amazon SEO. Those are the SEO that's very specific to the client and the industry. What are things that SEOs should definitely stay away from?
I'm not sure about definitely stay away from, but I'll answer your question in a slightly different way. In my personal opinion, again, this is my own personal opinion. If you're new and you want to get into SEO and you don't know nothing about SEO and you're just starting out, my personal advice would be start with very basic SEO guides, but stay away from anything more advanced. So just learn the absolute basics, which would be index tag, H1, page titles, canonicals. Once you learn that, and I honestly would encourage people to try this at home. Once you learn the absolute basics, find any keyword you want. Make sure it's at least a two-word keyword, and Google whatever you want on the internet, and spend the time to analyze the top 10 search results and try and work out yourself, without doing any reading online, what makes these 10 websites rank on page 1 versus millions of websites that try to rank for that keyword. Because once you start to condition your mind to start studying patterns and how algorithms work, it will start to shape you into becoming a very good SEO in the future. And once you've accomplished that, then you can start looking at more advanced guides and tutorials that the industry has to offer. But yeah, I guess the biggest thing I would avoid is going in too deep right at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I'm smiling because what you just said is literally what I used to do as well when I first started out, because I was very into keywords and I found them just fascinating, and I just used to search things and just random things, anything that I thought of, and just look at the SERPs and just be amazed that there's all this information around this specific keyword that I just searched. And that led me into understanding search intent. And that was, for me, what really ignited my passion in SEO, because the search intent, in a way, it's the way us SEOs connect with people online, in that we know what they're searching for and we can better serve them. And it's serving those real people and not search engines that I think really makes the difference between an SEO who's really good versus someone who's subpar.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, because user intent is SEO at the end of the day. And if you don't have user intent as part of your strategy, you've automatically failed. And some good examples for people to do some homework at home. If you Google the word iPhone, which is probably one of the most competitive keywords in the world, iPhone, just one word, it millions of searches per month, very, very competitive keyword. And if you look at who ranks on the top 10, you'd be amazed at what kind of strategies they're using. a recent example I've seen is Argos. Argos ranks, I can't remember, I think top 5 somewhere for the keyword iPhone. But if you look at their page, majority of the content is duplicated. And it's duplicated because Apple write the content and they don't allow distributors and sellers to change that content. So they're ranking on top 5 with completely duplicated content, and it's only short snippets of content. And why are they ranking? It's user intent. If you look at the page, they're linking out to different user intents. So they're linking out to iPhone 13, iPhone 12, iPhone accessories, iPhone finance, iPhone compare. These are different user intents of iPhone. So the landing page that links out to different user intents would tend to rank very, very high. So it's a perfect example, and definitely worth looking at it yourself of how a website with duplicated content can rank top 5 for one of the most competitive keywords in the world with very small amount of content and just links. It's all about user intent.
Yeah. And you mentioned content there. One thing that comes to mind is that people have various definition of content, and I find that changes depending on the type of industry. So e-commerce would say content is everything that's on a page, whether it's a PLP, PDP, everything on the page is content. Others tend to have this view that content has to be words, essentially, or 400 piece of word on a page, and that is content. And for SEOs, when we speak with business leaders, we tend to say we need more content on the page. And they have this idea that we're referring to words on a page, and they push back on that. What can we do? What can we SEOs do to explain what we mean by content?
Good question. And I've had this before with Topshop a few years ago, and the way I got around it is I took a screenshot of the I think dresses category page, and I've hidden all the images so you couldn't see the images. And I've asked them, can you please tell me what type of dress each one of these dresses are? And no one could answer it. And then I asked them, what page am I on? What category page am I on? Because I've hidden the title and the heading as well. And no one could answer. They just said dresses. Like, yes, I'm on dresses, but which dresses? Which category page? No one could answer it. And use that as an example to help educate more senior people that the same way that you as a human being couldn't tell which dress category page I'm on, it's the same way Google can't either. So we can use content to help educate Google on, right, we're on the maxi dresses. We don't necessarily need 400 words or anything like that, but in my eyes, on an e-commerce anyway, content could be the product names. The product names, if it's a maxi dress, mention maxi dress within the product name. So then if I do hide the images, you can see if every product says maxi dress on there, you would know that's a maxi dress page. So yeah, that's one strategy that I would use to help educate more senior management is play mind games with them.
Yeah, I think they still have this idea that SEO is all about keywords, rankings, and backlinks, right? They tend to not consider pages as an important part of SEO. And something that I find some SEOs have now starting to drill into business leaders is the importance of pages over keywords. And one thing that an agency, a big agency likes to say is that pages, keywords are important, but Google ranks pages, not keywords. And that right there really gets business leaders thinking like, oh, okay, maybe we should focus on pages then. Maybe that is the key to our success. Maybe, just maybe, they're more important than keywords. What's your view on keywords versus pages?
Well, it's always been pages, and a perfect example of this is Google a keyword that's at least 3-4 words long, and chances are whatever page you land on will be a page dedicated to that specific keyword. You know, you need pages. You can't have one page type in 1,000 keywords, you're going to rank for 1,000 keywords. Google's going to rank a page that's highly relevant to whatever you're trying to Google.
Right. For a CMO who has SEO within their remit, what is the one thing that they should know about SEO?
From personal experience, if you're going to take SEO seriously, whether that be hiring in-house or getting an agency, you need to understand that SEO requires a team of people. So if you're going to get an agency or someone in-house, make sure you also allocate development resource, see a resource from other product managers or other departments that SEO may touch. You need that resource, because I've seen it time and time again where an enterprise client would hire an SEO agency, pay them tens of thousands per month, but won't give them any resource whatsoever in terms of development or anything like that. So then what's the point? It's an SEO agency, except from reporting. There's not much an SEO agency can do if you don't have any resource. So to any CMO out there, make sure that if you're going to take SEO seriously, consider all the departments that SEO would have to work with and allocate some resource.
Yeah, I agree. Implementation is everything. If you can't implement, you're not able to get results. And in a lot of, in a sense, SEO, I think the difference maker between brand A and brand B is who is able to implement their recommendations quicker.
So what was the question?
No. It's just a statement saying the difference maker in SEO tends to be who's able to implement their SEO recommendations quicker.
Who can do it quicker and who can do it best by keeping user intent in mind.
What would you say to a business, and I have to ask this because it's top of mind, a business who says SEO is free, why do I need to pay for SEO? It's the free channel.
Yeah, I mean, if someone wants to say something like that, just find a keyword that they don't rank for and be like, if it's free, where are you? Probably the easiest way how to convince someone like that they need SEO. I mean, another way of convincing an individual that may say that is SEMrush. Have a look at the total amount of keywords that they rank for, then have a look at the biggest competitor. Usually the difference will be quite dramatic. I don't know, if it's free, why do you rank for 20,000 keywords and they rank for 300,000? It's free in terms of, yes, every user that comes to your website, you're not paying for them. But SEO is definitely not free because you're paying for the SEO agency or someone in-house. You're paying for the development time and resource, the content writers. It's not as cheap or as free as some companies might think. It involves a lot of work to get an SEO campaign going.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, think of any big website. You can almost, Apple, Amazon, you can almost be certain that they have an SEO person on one level or another, whether it's technical content, there is an SEO person involved.
Yeah.
For an SEO 100%. Wanting to get into the industry, these days we have a lot of courses on SEO. A lot of universities teach SEO these days. And you got into SEO by being very hands-on. What is the, if you like, the best way to get into SEO these days?
Depends on what type of SEO you want to get into. If you just want to be a general SEO, I guess, yes, you can give those courses a go. They'll be perfectly fine, and they will teach you the overall knowledge that you would need for SEO. You get a good understanding of basic SEO, content SEO, a bit of off-page SEO, etc. But if you want to learn, or if you want to be very good at, let's say, technical SEO, as far as I'm aware, those courses don't really teach technical SEO to the point that you can class yourself as a technical SEO. I mean, I've met a lot of, and I see it every day, a lot of SEOs class robots.txt, XML sitemap, redirects, broken links as technical. That shouldn't be technical. That's just general SEO. I mean, if you don't know the absolute basics, you're not an SEO. So robots.txt, XML sitemaps, etc., canonicals, that should just be SEO. And then when it comes to technical SEO, if you genuinely want to learn technical SEO, my advice is to get a little bit hands-on. You don't need to learn how to build a JavaScript website. You don't need to learn how to, program a server or whatever it might be. But you should have a good understanding of how can I create a WordPress website? How does this website work with a database? What is a database? And once you learn just the top level, very basic things, you can start to absorb the content you see online around technical SEO a lot better when you have a better technical understanding of things. As opposed to being someone who doesn't know anything about technical, and then you try and read a JavaScript related article, it probably will make no sense to you.
It'll be like a foreign language, right? With technical, what is it?
A foreign language, yeah.
Yeah. With technical, what is it that really gets you excited about technical SEO?
The more complicated the issue is, the more, because I like to be challenged. So I enjoy technical SEO and I enjoy working on technical projects. So websites that are single page applications or JavaScript heavy websites, I love those type of projects. So yeah, anything challenging, I would definitely enjoy when it comes to technical SEO.
Interesting. It's like a puzzle, right? And I find that really gets people excited when they see this issue on a site. From a technical point of view, they think, I know how to fix this. Or I know I have a fix for this specific issue.
Yeah.
What has been the...
especially when it comes to... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, especially when it comes to... No, don't worry. You go.
No, go for it. Expand on it. Go for it.
I forgot what I was going to say now, so go. I forgot what I was going to say, so go for it.
What's been the... what did you last read about the industry, which really got you excited?
I can't think of it off the top of my head. I can't think of anything on top of my
head. No? Okay.
No.
Yeah, there is a lot of noise out there. And sometimes you just want to get away from the noise. Do you find that you get excited from different areas outside of SEO?
Yeah. You mean in terms of websites and technology and stuff like that?
Yeah. Just like, let's say, you have a new phone, you get a new phone and you find possibilities from that will help, let's say, mobile SEO.
I enjoy something called Devops, which indirectly can affect SEO, and it's something I've been experimenting in the background. So yes, directly it's not SEO, of course, but there are things you can do in Devops that can severely help large websites. Definitely won't make any difference for a small website, but if you're dealing with a very large website, it can help. So that's something I enjoy messing around with and learning about, and whilst at the same time potentially having an SEO benefit too.
For me, it's movies. Strangely enough,
movies.
It's movies. Even when I'm writing tech audits, all right. If I'm looking at the issues on a site, and I tend to relate that to almost telling the story, thinking of how I'll tell the story. I think it comes down to storytelling. And whatever I'm doing from an SEO point of view, I think of the storytelling aspect of it, especially when it comes to how I'm going to get other people involved in it. Even if it's a case of I need a developer to work on this, I need a website manager or editor to help build this page. I think of, okay, these are my crew, if you like, and then I'm the director and I have to somehow influence them to give their best performance. In a strange way, that's the way I think of SEO. And I think that's what continues to stimulate me in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I enjoy, especially at agency side in the past, is the challenge. Because sometimes, you do run into clients where you know that if you approach them and say, can you do X, Y, Z, they're going to turn around and be like, no. So then the challenge becomes, how do you get this company to do what you're recommending, which you know is going to help them in terms of SEO. So I do sort of enjoy that part of SEO as well, where it's right, the storytelling, exactly what you said. What's the best way to approach this and to tell the story? Should I do a business case? If I do, how should I approach the business case? And again, there's a storyline around that. So it's another fun part of SEO, that you're not technically doing SEO, but you're dealing with people. It's like people management in a way.
Yeah. I always say SEO is essentially making improvements, whether you're doing it whether you're having big, bold changes, small iterations.
Yeah.
The goal is to make improvement. And sometimes going about that in a odd way is beneficial, i.e. storytelling. How are you going to get buy-in on your ideas and buy-in on the operational aspects to have the ideas realized?
Yeah, no,
George, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you online?
Just LinkedIn. I'm not a big user of social media.
LinkedIn. I'll be sure to have the link in the description. Well, thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
We can catch up again soon.
Lovely. Speak soon.
Cheers. Bye now.